Hello everyone, hope you're having the most awesome day today. Welcome to the Film Insight channel. For today's video, we're going to discuss more of the worst restaurants featured on 24 Hours to Hell and Back and reveal how they're doing now. So, sit back, relax, and without further ado, let's get right into the content, guys. Catfish Cabin. For a season 4 episode, Gordon Ramsay heads over to Catfish Cabin in Memphis, Tennessee to save it from closure. Owned by Charles and managed by his daughter Rachel, the restaurant did exceptionally well until the recession in 2008. Ever since then, they've only been losing money, and it's gotten to a point where they're bleeding up to $80,000 a year. To make matters even worse, Charles and Rachel are very stubborn and communicate extremely poorly with one another. With the restaurant being on the verge of closing down, they call out to Ramsay and his team for some guidance. Upon his eventual arrival disguised as a construction worker with a group of 4, they notice that the decor is dated and that the dining room smells awful. Ordering some staple Memphis meals, the famous chef and his friends wait over half an hour and are disappointed with the greasy, slimy, and soggy food they receive. Having seen more than enough, Ramsay takes off his disguise, gathers the staff together, and shows them the hidden footage he captured. Exposing the fact that they have dirt and grime underneath their cooking equipment, are cross-contaminating, and have a vermin infestation, Charles and his staff are stunned by what they see. Talking some more with the staff, Rachel admits that she has no authority since the operations manager Geraldine only listens to Charles and not her. Most of the employees agree that the biggest issue is a lack of leadership and the fact that the management is divided. Later on, Ramsay heads into the walk-in and notices some spoiled ground beef and catfish that's gone rancid. Additionally, he sees a pool of grease sitting in the grease trap and finds cockroaches running behind the equipment. Sitting down to discuss the issues at hand with both Charles and Rachel highlights that she wants to take full control and that Geraldine is a problem. Inviting Geraldine into the conversation, Ramsay reveals some footage of her taking money from the cash register. Speechless and feeling betrayed, Charles thankfully decides to fire her, and the conversation ends with the owner finally giving complete control to his daughter. Calling over some professionals to deep clean the kitchen, they remove years worth of grime from the equipment. After completely cleaning the area, Ramsay gifts them with brand new fryers and a collection of cooking tools. Moving into the renovation phase, the famous chef and his team revitalized the dining room with modern furnishings and added a boat to the ceiling. When the restaurant finally relaunched, the service was a success overall, even though some dishes were sent back for being undercooked. Months after the taping of this episode, the sales greatly improved and the patrons fell in love with the freshly made mac and cheese. Rachel finally got the control she desired and the communication between staff members was better than ever. Reviews on Yelp were quite mixed, however, with most praising the decor but others complaining about the customer service and food quality. Ultimately, the restaurant closed down in October of 2019 but was purchased by a new owner several months later. Now, the restaurant goes by the name Bell's Catfish and Soul Food, which has pretty good reviews. Stone's Throw. In the second season of the show, Gordon Ramsay heads over to Stone's Throw in Seymour, Connecticut to bring it back on its feet. Purchased by Peter and his wife Tara 3 years prior to the taping of this episode, they simply wanted something to work on together. Although they didn't expect the business to be so difficult to handle and put all their savings into keeping the restaurant afloat. To have money to get by, Tara also has a full-time job which completely drains her of her energy. Needing some guidance before it's too late, the couple call out to Ramsay for some much-needed help. Arriving disguised as an old lady, Ramsay visits the restaurant with 4 other elderly women, which is hilarious. Putting aside the fact that the restaurant smells disgusting, Ramsay orders some fine dining dishes and admires the beautiful view of the river. On the other hand, the famous chef points out that the interior itself lacks vibrancy and is just filthy. When the food finally arrives, it's not only dry and overcooked, but tastes rancid, leaving the famous chef feeling disappointed. Done with the food, Ramsay decides to reveal himself, then gathers the staff together to show them the shocking footage he captured. It puts on display how the staff does anything but their job, the food is improperly cooked and stored, and how there's tons of moldy produce. Both the owners and staff alike were utterly shocked with what they just witnessed and claimed that they weren't aware that it was this bad. Gathering the staff later on, they express that the owner's sons, who also help manage the place, aren't pulling their weight and slack off. Though this is mostly due to the fact that Peter and Tara don't take criticism very well, so the sons feel like they can't speak up. Additionally, Ramsay reveals that he had some of his staff visit undercover and they left with food poisoning. Soon after, the owners join in on the conversation and they admit that they're 3 months away from closing down, but the staff reassures them that they're committed to helping the restaurant improve. Pulling the family aside, the couple's quick to defend themselves, but Ramsay points out that they're in denial and that the restaurant isn't as perfect as they think it is. Later on, Ramsay decides to prove this to them by inspecting the walk-in freezer, which has spoiled chicken, rancid oysters, and rotting shrimp that was recently served. With there being no room to deny the state of the restaurant, the owners finally agree that things are bad and help clean the kitchen. Spending some time with Peter, he reminds him that his wife has a lot on her shoulders and that he should help her alleviate that burden. Moving into the renovation phase, Ramsay and his team not only deep cleaned the kitchen and replaced the equipment, but they updated the dining room to be more colorful and inviting, as well as improve the menu. Upon the restaurant's eventual relaunch, it seemed like the customers enjoyed the food despite having to wait 30+ minutes to receive it. Generally, the patrons were in love with the changes made and were stunned by how drastic the improvements were. Post 24 Hours to Hell and Back, the restaurant standards improved greatly thanks to Ramsey's guidance, and the staff was much happier. Months after Ramsey left, reviews on Yelp were pretty mixed, with some praising the location and atmosphere, while others expressed that the food was hit or miss. In the end, the restaurant closed down in January of 2019 and was put up for sale for $900,000. Bayou on the Vine. As our last entry, we're going to cover a restaurant that Gordon Ramsay tried to rescue called Bayou on the Vine. Owned by Chuck Byrne and his wife Eartha, they purchased the restaurant for their daughter Sharika, who works as the executive chef. Unfortunately, she's hard to please and get along with and is constantly getting into arguments with her sisters who also work at Bayou. To make matters even worse, the family has no experience in the restaurant industry, which is why they're failing a year into business. Unsure of what else to do, they call out to Ramsey and his team for some much needed guidance. When he finally arrives in a disguise as usual alongside a group of people, Ramsey immediately notices that the restaurant is Mardi Gras themed. Ordering some staple Creole dishes, they all come back cold and tasting dreadful, which really disappoints the famous chef. After hearing the family argue all the way from the kitchen, Ramsey decides that he's heard enough and finally reveals himself. Bringing the staff to his Hell on Wheels truck soon after, the 24 Hours to Hell and Back host shows them some very revealing footage. Not only does everyone get to see how filthy the kitchen is, but they see that there's vermin crawling about and that Sharika could be pretty hostile at times. Despite the clear evidence, Sharika denies that there were ever any bugs in the kitchen, and when confronted about her lack of experience, she gets very defensive. Holding a staff meeting later on, they all agree that Sharika is the biggest problem and would probably be fired if she wasn't a part of the family. Shayna, who's Sharika's sister and the restaurant's general manager, has never managed a restaurant before, and when Ramsey asks her about this, she gets all sensitive and walks out. After getting her to calm down, Ramsey tells the staff that he needs to hear that they're committed to change if they want his help. Giving them some time to think, the famous chef pulls the owner Chuck aside and talks to him about his daughters. He expresses that Sharika is entitled and needs to be put in her place, and that Shayna's given up and needs to be fired. Later on, Ramsey meets with Shayna in hopes that he could get her to commit to the business and accept the upcoming changes, which she reluctantly does. Additionally, he brings Sharika to the Hell on Wheels kitchen to reveal the new menu he's been working on, but she doesn't seem to like it at first. Even though Ramsey modernizing the traditional Creole dishes on the menu made Sharika pretty uncomfortable, she had to change her mind after trying them for herself. With the family seemingly being on the right track, it was finally time for Ramsey to move into the renovation phase. Starting by stocking the kitchen with new equipment, the famous chef decided to rename the place to Gadsden's in commemoration of Eartha's father and his jazz legacy. What's more, the dining room was revamped to be more colorful, the stage was redecorated with brass trumpets, and the family's photos were placed on the wall. Upon the restaurant's eventual relaunch, the staff gets quickly overwhelmed and some food is sent back, but once Shayna and Sharika started working together, things went pretty smoothly. Following the taping of this episode, the restaurant was doing a lot better, especially since Shayna actually started taking control. Regardless of the fact that the restaurant had pretty good reviews, it ended up closing down in June of 2020. Well, that'll be all for today's video here on the channel. I do hope you enjoyed, and if you did, be sure to drop a massive like down below and comment your thoughts. Subscribe for more content like this and turn on those sweet bell notifications for instant access to our content. Have a good one, guys.